because this isn't a podcast, how are we supposed to start things off?
Theme tune would be good.
Any particular tune you're looking for?
I'll compose it and send it over.
Excellent. No copyright, please. Public domain only. Someone asked ChatGPT, what's the best way to intro a podcast, right? But look, to kick things off, why don't you just, for the audience, introduce yourself.
I am Sam Allison.
My name's Dipak. Let's look at who Sam is and how did he end up into this interesting world that he's working in. Because if anything, I don't think your journey was at all purposely directed towards this industry.
Not in any way.
So let's pick it up. I always love it. What was 6-year-old Sam dreaming about?
6-year-old Sam always wanted to be an actor. And 6-year-old Sam basically spent his whole childhood, that's all he did. That, and did anything to do with the theatre, anything to do with watching plays, doing plays, being in things, lighting things, doing sound for things, you name it, I did it. And that really was my passion throughout my whole childhood. And going into being 18 when I went to drama school and did all those kind of things and tried to become an actor and failed miserably.
Oh, I mean, who knows? This could be the greatest performance you've ever done.
Indeed.
Hold on a second. So in there, you dropped it wasn't just acting. You weren't trying to steal. You wanted to know about how it worked.
Absolutely,
and what was going on. And
yeah. So one of my first jobs was working in technical theatres. So did lights and sound for different things and had a good old time doing it. So I had a pretty great childhood where I did lots of really cool things. And then moving from that, I then went and didn't become an actor. Although I did a few bits and bobs. There's some adverts I'll show you, but maybe...
Did you have televised adverts?
Absolutely, but that's for a pub conversation. But and did a few plays and that kind of thing, and yeah, it was good. It was really good fun. And then I went into teaching, as many actors do, and went to Nottingham University and got my postgraduate certificate of education and did that kind of stuff, and did that for many years, teaching.
So you were teaching
secondary school. Yeah.
What, all of them to do everything, or was you specialised subject?
Drama.
You taught drama to secondary school.
So did that, and let me tell you, there's no client in the world that's as challenging as a class of 30, 15-year-olds who don't care less, about what's going on. But if you've got the passion and you've got the interest, and actually being in there with a group of students who may not want to learn, but maybe you can put something across to them in a way that they can consume and they enjoy and is of interest, then suddenly that's very rewarding. And it's one of the best jobs you'll ever have in the world. Teaching, fantastic, yeah. And then from there, I then in my winters I would teach, and then in my summers I went away to music festivals and sold food at music festivals, and did that for basically...
None of this says cyber professional. Keep going.
I did that for about 8 years, and which is great, and ran a food stall at music festivals, and then taught in the winter, and that was my life. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I'm not sure, that is not conducive to a happy home life. Being away for 3 months of the year, teaching in the other side of that is not good for having children, etc. So I then went into working in sales.
Well, just like that?
A very junior job in sales. So that was...
why sales?
Because I really wanted to make some money. And
so it was the salary cap?
Absolutely, yeah. And so that was my original thought, that I'd go and do that, and it would be a way to make some money. But actually, that was 9 years ago that I started doing that. So I've been in sales for about 9 years now. I became pretty clear that there was a real passion there for that as well. And
so how does that? I mean, I almost saw this hippie hedonistic Sam.
Absolutely, no doubt. Peace and love, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, we won't dwell on it, but I came from a service industry background, so I certainly know there was a moment where you're like, I'm not sure that my credit rating works in here. You know, there's not many cash deposits happening, right? But there's a point where you've just gone passion for something so theatric, driven by you being somebody, a persona, coaching and teaching. I'm with you, embarking knowledge on anybody, having a moment on someone's life that wasn't given to you because they're your kids is just a beautiful thing. Bang, sales.
And so
how the passion though? How the passion for sales, or was it a type of sale that made you so passionate?
I think it was just because working in hospitality and education especially, that they are both industries which are not in that growth phase. There are elements of growth to it, but it's not quite as turbocharged as the world of technology. And I was in technology sales. I was working in recruitment at the time, so I was finding people for jobs within the technology space, and in a specific technology as well. So I think suddenly seeing that this is something which is really changing the world, and speaking to those people that had a real passion about what they were doing and how they were doing it, made me passionate. And I began to get very interested in the technicalities of it, and interested in what they were doing and how they were developing things, and the kind of changes that they were making to big organizations. And I think with my world before, it was kind of like very localized, but this was not localized. This was working with corporations which are dealing with so many different people and names that we would know every day in our lives. And you see the kind of change that they are implementing, which is affecting us on a daily basis. And so I got really passionate about that, and really passionate, and I just like speaking to people, and I really like going out for dinner, and really like going out for lunch. So in the world of sales, that's just a perfect place for me to be.
Right.
And learned lots along the way. And of course, I do not come from a technical background, but I do come from a background of dealing with interesting situations at times, whether that is working at music festivals and having to deal with some very strange individuals at times, whom I loved to the bits, but nonetheless, you know, you meet the whole gamut of society in that environment, or working in education, and seeing some quite amazing young people, some challenging young people, some challenging teachers. The people that I work for now were a client of mine, and they had a job which came up 5 years ago and said, as a junior salesperson there, in business development, would you be interested I came and work for you? And that really was, where my life changed. Working for the organisation that I do, a huge amount of learning's gone on. My really incredible career trajectory that I've had, and learned a huge amount about security and risk and IT and how that sits within an organisation, and the different challenges that there might be around bringing these systems into organisations, the kind of outside challenges that these organisations have from state actors that potentially don't want us to succeed, and it's been a real journey. That's where we end up now, and and some of the clients that I've been with for years and years now, we are true partners to them, and it's been amazing to see their journey as well as our own journey, to transform their organisations and make them much safer, much more transparent about what's going on, allow them and give them the knowledge and support that we can over long projects that we have with them, to really understand how they can improve their security posture within their organisation.
And that it was quite, what was the word? It was quite a tonic listening to you, right? Because I look at your glasses and I'm like, they look like nerdy glasses, but they're theatrical glasses, right?
Exactly.
Mine are nerdy ones. I'm no architect, but I'm definitely a nerd in there. And I'm going to use it on purpose, as much pun intended. So you had this period of time as a teacher where you literally were facing warts and all with kids, and yet you quite rightly described the service industry. You see everything. I reckon everyone should do 2 years in the service industry.
100%. And I think you learn so many skills coming from those different areas to how to deal with people, and especially in the tech industry, where I think there is people can be I'm blessed to be an extrovert, thankfully, which makes my life a lot easier in sales.
Yeah.
But for those people in technology that maybe don't have those skills, and it can be quite isolating working in technology, where you just sat often not within an office, at home, working remotely. Having those skills where you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis is absolutely key. And as technology changes and less kind of, the need for hands-on keyboards, coding is going, and we are going through that at the moment, it is changing. Those soft skills are going to be so important moving into the future. And I think, things are going to change within the world and different jobs are going to disappear. But I really see the skills that you learn within those industries that maybe, people look down upon in some ways, in the hospitality world.
Yeah, they're there to serve.
Indeed, exactly. They're going to be so important moving into the next generation that we go to at the moment. And I hope people really see the benefit of that. And I hope, from my story, I've done pretty okay in the world of technology so far. Anything could change, but hopefully bringing value to the clients that we have, and I think so many of those skills that I learned from teaching and from and music festivals and dragging trailers around the country would be really beneficial to what I'm doing at the moment.
And I love that idea that to be successful in any industry, it's not going to be necessarily about one particular vertical, and unless you want to be something absolutely vocational, right? We get that. And when you talk about the skills of chasing down that acting, I still think you've got a chance for acting career, isn't it?
It's never.
I'm chasing stand-up comedy. It'll happen one day. But you're using those skills as a non-technical person to get people involved in the conversation. So let's dive in on some of those big ticket clients that you might have worked with, or customers, or whatever you want to call them. That they come to the table with a certain attitude or aptitude, positive or negative, and then you've got to speak to them, and you seem super passionate about them realizing that things can change.
Yeah.
How do you take them down that journey, and what did you learn and reapply that you kind of touch on there?
Of course, I think if a client is reaching out to us, it's because they've got a problem, and it's how you solve that problem. And I think for me, that where I can bring value to a situation is I'm pretty good at putting people together, listening, understanding what the issue is, and then I'm not technical, as we know, but I understand. I've got two ears, and so I can listen to and understand kind of where maybe things have gone wrong in the past, where they're seeing things not going right in the future, and understand how we as an organisation, along with our partners, can solve some of those problems. And I think often when we get into a client, they're banging their heads against the wall. They might have had a solution which has not been working for many years, and they just don't think there's any way out of that situation. So when you show them a path which can bring positivity and bring value to the organisation, that can be really enlightening. And I think it's often about creating a plan which is actually achievable as well. Because I know there's a lot of organisations that we work with where basically the biggest problem that anyone has is change. That it's, you can put as much technology as you like into any situation, but if the organisation is not going to accept the change, then you're not going to get very far. So it's about persuasion, it's about listening, but also about telling sometimes about what direction is going to be the best route to travel in. And sales is all of this. Sales is selling that solution within the organisation. Sales is listening, understanding the problem. Sales is creating a vision where it could be better. And yet things don't always go right. There are ups and downs in every project and ups and downs in every transformational journey. But as long as we all work as partners throughout it, and those relationships that are built right at the beginning of any technology journey remain as we go through, that is the key thing. When the relationships break down, and really, I see myself as that conduit for good relationships, hopefully I can listen and act when someone tells me that something is not what they want it to be. If those relationships break down throughout the project, then chances are it's probably not going to be a success.
So when you've got that moment where you're with the client, you're doing something, you talked about at the beginning how they might have been banging their head against a brick wall, right? They almost become institutionalized that technology is not my friend anymore. But in cyber and SecOps, you've got to be in a position where they've got to hear you, because often it's a bit buried in the business as well, right? Yeah. What do you see as some of the key problems that come to you when you have that first conversation? Yeah, they've shown some interest, so that's why you're there in the first place. But then you've got very little time to kind of give yourself a platform for them to hear you as much as you're listening. So,
of course.
What's the biggest hurdles on that stage?
The bigger, I think previously maybe cyber was buried down within an organisation. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think it's absolutely like priority number one for. If you're sat on some board of directors, of a major institution, whether in the UK or the rest of Europe, I imagine what you're thinking is, I really don't want to have a cyber attack, which is going to bring down our systems.
So you could physically attest to say that attitude of cyber being buried is now, it's changed.
You'd need to be pretty head in the sand, and you'd need to be pretty confident. I'm probably a little bit foolish to think that this shouldn't be like your number one priority within an organisation. That maybe not number one, but it's certainly up there as a top priority.
I would argue that if it's not number one, that's because you literally run a
very tight ship.
Well, no, you're running a small 4-person Canadian lumberjack. Just a lumberjack operation that's got machinery off the grid in the middle of nowhere.
Indeed.
But you're right, you've got technology. So no, I'm with you from a control perspective. If that's not one of your number one risks on the business or threat to your objectives, then I'm not sure where you're working.
And you wouldn't wish the kind of destruction to come onto these organisations, whether that's Marks and Spencer's with what they've just been through. Very, very, very difficult. JLR, bringing down production for months on end. It's real. It's real. And even, some of my friends that have, small businesses, my best friend owns a truck business, truck servicing business, and they've had a cyber attack which brought down all their systems. And very disruptive, very expensive. And this is happening to both big and small organisations, and I think it's happening a lot more than people think.
Well, we see the odd nursery and this and that, but for everyone there's a whole load underneath it, isn't there?
And I was listening to a CISO speak the other day who actually said, that in the financial world especially, a lot of the ransoms that are put to these organisations once a hack is, once they realise that they're being attacked, are paid by insurance companies. Which just perpetuates the problem. But of course, if you're in that situation, you probably want it to go away as fast as possible. So I think, the industry has completely changed in the short time that I've been working in security. Not short, 5 years that I've been working in security. But I've seen the priority around it completely shift.
That's good news.
It's very real. It is good news, but it's come off the back of some, real casualties. Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, I certainly, every time a child screams, just give them a new toy.
Yeah.
Eventually there's loads of toys.
and by adding these new toys on, you hope that one of them is going to stop the problem from happening.